Hello, everyone. Welcome to Brainwaves. I'm Brandon Staglin. Today, we're going to talk about psychosis early intervention. As I can attest firsthand, psychosis can be a very scary thing to experience with its hallucinations and delusions that don't seem to make sense and taunt the person suffering. I've experienced that myself, and that's like 100,000 young people in the United States who develop a psychotic disorder every year. And unfortunately, these young people, if they don't receive treatment, they may face a lifetime of disability, but there is indeed hope. IMRO has become the fiscal sponsor of a new psychosis prevention education organization called Partners for Strong Minds. Partners for Strong Minds founder Chantel Garrett is here with us today to talk about how the organization plans to transform public perception of the importance of early intervention and prevention of psychosis, and also to answer some difficult questions that I think are on many people's minds about how to best to talk about psychosis. So, Chantel, welcome and thanks so much for being with us on Brainwaves today.
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you so much for having us.
So, first question, let's just start out. What is Partners for Strong Minds, and how does it seek to improve mental health care in the United States?
Yeah, so Partners for Strong Minds, like you said, is an education organization. We are partnering with IMRO to empower young people to seek help for what we think of as one of the most misunderstood mental health conditions, psychosis. So, we've seen in the past several years in particular a wonderful clinical movement beginning to really take off in the United States, with early psychosis treatment programs establishing and implementing across the United States. There are now about 100 of these programs. And when we kind of looked at the landscape and sort of saw what was happening clinically, we got really excited that now we stand in the United States to serve more young people earlier and get them back, to living the lives they want to lead. Except there's one sort of big problem, and that is that really not a lot of people know that this is possible. They don't know that psychosis, when treated in its early stages, is highly treatable. And so myself, with a professional background in marketing and communications, I got really excited about lending my own skill set to launching a public education campaign about the merits of early help seeking. And so we're reaching out to young people and their influencers to spread the word that early intervention is critical and really important to helping young people get back into chasing their dreams.
Spectacular. As I have been, I'm very impressed with your initiative and the focus of it. So, as I was saying, about 100,000 young people in the U.S. each year develop psychosis, and many more are at risk. And what would you like these young people to understand about options available to them to recover their wellness or improve their mental health and better pursue the lives they want to live?
Yeah, so we want people who are experiencing the early symptoms of psychosis to understand, first of all, just have a basic understanding of what they're going through. And so we're doing a lot of education just about what psychosis is and what it isn't, and to really know that they're not alone. We have a wonderful group of young people. It's our National Youth Leadership Board of 9 people who have experienced psychosis and have also experienced full recovery and are off to living their lives and going to college or finishing college and beginning their careers. And this was one of the major things that they shared with us, which is, when I was going through this, I really felt like I was the only person on earth who had ever gone through this. And that really kept them from raising their hand and asking for help. So a big thing is understanding, what psychosis is and that they're not alone. The second thing is that we want them to understand that psychosis is treatable, and that it doesn't have to be forever. It doesn't have to result in chronic illness or disability or any number of, the well-understood downstream effects of untreated illness. And finally, we want them to know that it's okay to ask for help. And, like I just said, it's a lot of what holds people back from what we understand is the fear and shame associated with seeking help. And so, we're looking for opportunities to put human faces, to really humanize and normalize some of these experiences, like sensory experiences, like feeling or hearing or seeing things, or having scary or uncomfortable thoughts that, or beliefs like delusions. We really need to sort of normalize some of these experiences and let people know that they do happen and it is totally treatable, but we do need to reach out for help.
That's great. Great approach. And, one thing that kind of helps me in that area is to understand that I am not my thoughts, but I have my thoughts and they belong to me. And, it's something that I experience, but it's not me. So scary thoughts don't mean that I'm scary, something like that. Great.
Definitely. No, that's great.
Thank you. Many parents of young people with early psychosis struggle to persuade their loved one to engage in medical treatment. Why do you think this is so? Why do you think this is so? And what suggestions can you offer on how to approach these difficult conversations?
Yeah, I mean, so first I just want to say that I can completely relate to this just from a family member's perspective. My brother has lived with schizophrenia and or schizoaffective disorder for the past 16 years. And, to make a very long story short, he's definitely walked a pretty rough path toward recovery. And only now is he really sort of finding some stability in his life and starting to see a greater quality in his life. But it's taken a lot of trial and error for our own family to figure out how to best help someone to get care who really wants nothing to do with treatment. There's three main things I would say to parents, and I do talk a lot to parents who are struggling with this. One is practicing what I would call radical compassion. And what I mean by this is really stepping into the shoes of your son or daughter and validating their experience while also not, and this is a really fine line, while also not necessarily agreeing. You don't have to agree with the content of a delusion or a hallucination, but you can, and it's really, I think, important to validate their experience. So that's that radical compassion. I find when I am able to relate with my brother in a way that's right alongside him as a partner and really see how distressing some of the things that he struggles with are, when I can relate and validate that experience, I feel like he's immediately sort of disarmed and we can have a much deeper and more helpful conversation sometimes about getting help. The second thing is really focusing on their aspirations. So I think a lot of times as parents, especially, or family members, we approach, treatment like, hey, you're sick and you need help, and I'm going to help you, and I'm your helper, and I was put on this earth as your parent, to ensure that you get the life-saving treatment that you deserve. And that makes a lot of sense. I'm a parent myself, and I can understand that mentality. At the same time, it doesn't mean a whole lot, I think, to someone who is coming from a place of rejecting treatment and not wanting that, and certainly not even seeing its value. So instead, I recommend really turning that on its head and really focusing on what they want out of life. So for example, in my brother's case, I know that some of his goals are he would like to drive again. He would like to have a friend. He would like to have a relationship, maybe a girlfriend someday. He would like to someday finish college, and someday he'd like to have a job. So those are the things that we talk about. Instead of, hey, Nate, I really want to get you to this treatment program, I will talk about, tools and resources and opportunities, specialized groups who can sort of help him realize his own goals and get at those aspirations. And then finally, a third thing is, I'll ask parents, is there someone else who can serve as that ally or confidant for your son or daughter? So I would just say, if there's a friend or multiple friends, a cousin, aunt, uncle, even a community member like a teacher or someone from your place of faith, that can be really, really helpful to helping to break down some of those barriers around what can feel a little bit scary around treatment.
Wow, those are all great ideas, and you put them into practice and shown that, from your perspective, that they've made some headway. So that's a great testimonial. Thank you.
Thanks, Brandon.
So, in addition to wanting individuals with psychosis and their families to understand the importance of early treatment and treatment in general for psychosis, you also would like the general public to understand the importance of this. Now, at first glance, it seems like it might be a challenging goal. How do you plan to engage people in the general public who may not recognize a personal connection with mental illness?
Absolutely. It is a challenge, without a doubt. We have our work cut out for us. To talk about psychosis in a way that's accessible and engaging to a mass audience, definitely going to be a challenge, and we're facing that already. So we know with 1 in 5 teens experiencing some kind of mental health challenge, with 100,000 young people facing first episode psychosis each year, and only about half of teens and young adults getting the help they need, we know that there's a gap. And in order to close that gap, we absolutely have to talk to more than just people who have experienced it. We need to get ahead of that and begin to talk to young people and ensure that they have some level of kind of what I would call brain health literacy, so that they understand, real basics around kind of the impacts of stress, the impact of maybe a family history of something like psychosis or mental health issues, and what they can do, how they can be empowered to care for themselves in a way and limit stress and limit things like maybe drug use, especially if you have a family predisposition, so that they can stay well. And if they see signs in either a friend, and we know that, by the way, most young people seek help for the first time from a friend rather than a mental health professional or even a parent. So it's really important to educate not just about how do you get help, but how do you help a friend? How do you have that conversation? How do you help remove fear and shame associated with getting help? So those are the things we're focused on. We're doing this through a public education campaign, as I said, largely on digital channels, largely through social networks. A big part of what we're doing, and a big gap that we see in the mental health advocacy landscape, is that connecting people actually to services. So we do a pretty good job in kind of mental health advocacy in general of maybe reducing stigma or having people share their stories, which is really important and definitely a component of what we do. But we also want to actually finally make that connection and refer people to a local service.
That's great, and I'm very proud to be on your advisory council and participating in this project with you. So
Thank you.
You're welcome. And so if people want to get involved with Partners for Strong Minds, they can visit partnersforstrongminds.org.
Yeah, so they can visit partnersforstrongminds.org. That's a number 4, and you'll see a lot of great resources and information there about psychosis. There's also volunteer opportunities up there. And we have many of those, as we are currently a volunteer-led organization. So thank you so much, Brandon. I just want to say too that we could not do what we're doing without IMRO's incredible partnership, and also your partnership on our advisory board has been really, really impactful for the organization. So thank you for your involvement.
You're welcome, and thank you, Chantel, for the shout out.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, great. So if people have any questions for you on the Brainwaves page after I post this video, are you ready to answer some questions?
Absolutely. I'll do my best.
Okay. Thanks so much for being on Brainwaves, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Thank you. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.